a report that came out today that says that the 2026 season will be Kathy's last season.
And it is wild. On top of everything else, it is wild how she has ignored Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark would be everywhere on everything. And if I was Kathy Engelbert, I'd be somewhere talking about Caitlin Clark every day.
He said the hole has just gotten so deep. She's in a place now where I don't really know what she does. Others said that she had a failure to develop sufficient relationship equity. Multiple find it curious she hasn't prioritized developing a closer relationship with Caitlin Clark.
I think one of the reporters asked her, hey, how do you feel about your job security, basically? And she came back saying, if I was a guy, you wouldn't be asking that. Like, have some accountability, man. If you was a guy, an alien, an unknown, running the league like this, people will question your job security. So what are you talking about, man? Just deflecting. Get out of here, man. Get out of here with that. Now I want to scroll down and finish it up with this one right here, man. The cherry on top.
The WNBA somehow found itself in the strangest position imaginable. It finally had the superstar every league dreams about, the biggest audience in its history, and more attention than ever before. Yet the person running the league is reportedly on her way out, somewhere between controversial fouls, baffling decisions, and reports that Adam Silver stepped in to protect Caitlin Clark. Everything started falling apart. The real story is far crazier than the headlines suggest.
Kathy Engelbert, I think we can say with full confidence, when it comes to the financial success of the WNBA, you get full credit for that. However, on the contrary, when it comes to player relations, consistent officiating, social and emotional issues within the W, you are the worst commissioner in all of sports. And you know at the end of this contract, you ain't coming back, right? It's the With It wire. And I can safely say you've pissed everybody off. Why wouldn't
NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says Caitlin Clark has set the world on fire. Silver didn't reveal much about their brief conversation.
There is a peculiar kind of irony unfolding around the WNBA, because at the exact moment the league should be celebrating the biggest surge in attention it has ever experienced, the conversation has drifted somewhere completely different.
It's not just black people watching the WNBA right now. I think there's more white people watching than black people at this point in time. This is the reason why it's thriving the way it is. Just got to keep it all the way above. And race don't matter. You can't pick your race. Clark ain't picked to be white the same way Asia Wilson ain't picked to be black. Like, you ain't have no say-so or none of that. Which is why I keep saying, keep it about bad.
Instead of endless praise for spectacular performances, sold-out arenas, record-breaking television ratings, and a generation of young stars transforming women's basketball into must-watch entertainment, the headlines have increasingly revolved around leadership questions, controversial officiating, public relations mistakes, and one commissioner who now finds herself under more pressure than ever before.
One of America's greatest left-wing hacks, Nancy Armour, is back at it again. And this time, it's truly amazing. The USA Today columnist has cleared the air and informed Caitlin Clark fans, informed America what we're all about. Are you ready for this? Are you really ready for this? I'm going to give you a little context here. It's a little backstory. This is from our friend Danny Z. Now, you got to listen to this because this is astounding even for a left-leaning, crazy-ass rag like the USA.
The timing could hardly be worse because this was supposed to be the season where every discussion centered on basketball. Instead, many of the league's own stakeholders are reportedly asking whether the person running the WNBA is still the right person to lead it into its brightest future.
The three-point contest, because we talked about this in a recent video, and we talked about how Caitlin McBride, Caitlin Clark, and Sabrina Ionescu, it was originally reported that they declined to enter the three-point contest. And then Sabrina actually commented under that post and she said lies. And then when she was asked about it, she said that she didn't get an official invite to be in the three-point contest. Now, there was more that came out about this. Sabrina said, I can't decline an offer I never officially got invited to. And then a WNBA spokesperson said, our general process is to reach out to agents to determine a player's interest.
That conversation reached another level after reports emerged suggesting that many influential figures throughout the league now believe Kathy Engelbert's tenure may be approaching its conclusion. According to reporting from ESPN, conversations with more than 20 stakeholders across the WNBA, including owners, executives, players, and industry insiders, revealed a growing belief that while Engelbert deserves credit for helping stabilize the league financially, she may no longer be the leader capable of navigating the challenges that have exploded over the past 2 seasons. That distinction is important because very few people argue that she inherited an easy job. The WNBA was facing enormous financial hurdles when she arrived, and there is widespread acknowledgement that significant commercial progress has been made during her time in charge. The problem is that business growth is only one part of running a professional sports league, and many critics believe nearly every other aspect of league leadership has struggled at precisely the moment it mattered most. The remarkable part is that these concerns did not suddenly appear overnight. Instead, they accumulated slowly, one controversy at a time, until they eventually formed a mountain too large for anyone to ignore. Every league experiences difficult moments, but successful commissioners usually earn praise by stepping directly into those storms, communicating clearly, and restoring confidence before problems spiral out of control. Many observers believe that it has not happened here. Instead of seeing swift responses, fans have watched confusion replace clarity, silence replace leadership, and controversy linger far longer than anyone expected. Nothing illustrates that criticism more clearly than the debate surrounding Caitlin Clark. Whether people love her, criticize her, or simply appreciate the incredible attention she has brought to women's basketball, one fact has become impossible to dispute.
Yeah, I'll leave the specific question about the foul to my colleague, Commissioner Engelbert. I mean, I other than as a fan, obviously, it's nothing new in basketball that there's sort of welcome to the league moments, especially for heralded rookies. But of course, I want to see Caitlin treated fairly and appropriately in the league. I would say seems like she can take care of herself. She's a tough player. I think it may be lost on some people who are new to basketball in terms of a little bit of the controversy.
She has transformed the visibility of the league. Television audiences have reached levels not seen in decades. Merchandise has flown off the shelves. Arenas have sold out across the country. Casual sports fans who previously paid little attention to the WNBA suddenly began scheduling evenings around Indiana Fever games. Corporate sponsors recognized the opportunity almost immediately, while broadcasters eagerly increased coverage because demand was impossible to ignore. With that level of influence comes enormous responsibility from league leadership. Many sports executives would view such a player as someone who should be celebrated, protected, and promoted at every possible opportunity because their individual success creates opportunities for everyone else. Instead, critics argue that the WNBA repeatedly failed to capitalize on the momentum sitting directly in front of them. Rather than creating an atmosphere where the basketball itself dominated every headline, the league frequently found itself reacting to controversies that seemed entirely avoidable. Perhaps no incident captured that frustration better than the confrontation involving Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark. During a heated game, Thomas made contact with Clark's throat, creating one of the season's most discussed moments. Fans immediately demanded clarity regarding potential punishment, while analysts debated whether the play deserved stronger discipline than what was initially handed down. Instead of producing confidence in the league's disciplinary process, the situation only generated more confusion. Reports later emerged claiming that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver personally urged Kathy Engelbert to suspend Alyssa Thomas following the incident.
The problem is, are you getting rid of Kathy Engelbert because of the indiscretions that's happened towards Caitlin Clark? Or are you getting rid of her because the venomous radical players want Kathy Engelbert out for other reasons? As in, oh my God, she's been too hard on Alyssa Thomas. Or, oh my God, Kathy Engelbert's white. That's the thing. Kathy Engelbert's probably not the right person for the job.
Although aspects of those reports became the subject of debate, the story itself fueled an extraordinary narrative. If accurate, it suggested that the commissioner of the NBA felt compelled to intervene because he believed stronger action was necessary to protect one of the WNBA's most valuable players. Regardless of how every detail ultimately unfolded, the perception alone became damaging because many fans were left asking why decisive leadership appeared to come from outside the league rather than within it. That perception mattered because it reinforced an argument critics had already been making for months. They believed Kathy Engelbert consistently reacted after public outrage instead of staying ahead of situations before they escalated. Whether the issue involved officiating, player discipline, or media controversies, many supporters of the league felt leadership always seemed one step behind the conversation instead of directing it. In professional sports, perception often becomes almost as important as reality, and once enough fans begin believing that leadership lacks urgency, rebuilding confidence becomes incredibly difficult. The officiating debate only intensified those frustrations. Every league experiences complaints about referees, but throughout this season, the volume reached another level entirely. Games involving Caitlin Clark repeatedly became flashpoints for conversations about inconsistent foul calls, physical play, and uneven enforcement of league standards. Some fans believed Clark received insufficient protection despite becoming the face of the league's commercial explosion, while others argued officials struggled to maintain consistency across the board regardless of which teams were involved.
Adam Silver just said today, the commissioner of the NBA, he wishes that Clark had been put on the Team USA Olympic team.
Why did you say that, Rudy?
Because they're tired of funding this goddamn league.
They're tired of funding the league.
And I watched another podcast where there's a guy who does a lot of data stuff, and I'll tag him on this. I forget his name, but I watched this guy's podcast, and he said that the projection this year for the WNBA is to lose $50 million. I don't know how.
Whatever side people supported, almost everyone agreed that the refereeing itself had become one of the biggest stories in the sport, and that is never where a league wants the spotlight to remain. For many stakeholders, the concern extended beyond individual calls. They questioned whether there was a consistent disciplinary philosophy at all. Hard fouls generated enormous debate, yet punishments often appeared unpredictable. In a growing professional league trying to attract new audiences every week, uncertainty becomes an expensive problem because casual viewers expect organization, consistency, and confidence from league leadership. That growing list of frustrations created the backdrop for another controversy that, on its own, might have seemed relatively minor, but instead became symbolic of a much larger issue. As All-Star Weekend approached, reports initially suggested that several elite shooters, including Sabrina Ionescu, Caitlin Clark, and Kayla McBride, had declined invitations to participate in the three-point contest. At first glance, that explanation appeared straightforward enough. Star players decline events all the time, particularly during demanding seasons. However, the story changed dramatically once the players themselves began responding publicly. Sabrina Ionescu flatly rejected the original narrative, explaining that she could not decline an invitation she never officially received.
About things you have literally no control over. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I like the fact that Barack Obama, who knows hoops, who knows basketball, who knows who's nice, like he goes out of his way to talk to Caitlin Clark because he knows what's up. He ain't dumb. He watches her. You think he don't watch her? Now hold on. Because there's more. Because everybody keeps saying who's the face of the WNBA, who's the face. Oh, it's Asia Wilson. It's Angel Reese. It's y'all sound ridiculous. Let's look.
Soon afterwards, Kayla McBride shared her own experience, saying the only communication came through her agent via a casual text message roughly 48 hours before the event, rather than a formal invitation worthy of one of the league's premier shooters. Suddenly, what appeared to be a scheduling issue became another debate over professionalism, planning, and whether the league was truly treating its biggest attractions with the importance they deserved. When names like Sabrina Ionescu and Kayla McBride become associated with confusion over whether they were ever properly invited, the conversation immediately shifts away from basketball and toward organizational competence. Instead of discussing who might break scoring records or deliver unforgettable performances, supporters found themselves debating text messages, communication failures, and whether the league had once again fumbled an opportunity that should have been straightforward. Many observers argued that this was exactly the sort of situation where leadership should have anticipated every possible issue. A player like Sabrina Ionescu is not simply another participant. She has become synonymous with elite shooting after dominating previous WNBA three-point contests and even competing against Stephen Curry during NBA All-Star Weekend. She represents one of the league's premier attractions, and many fans believed she should have received the kind of personalized invitation usually reserved for superstar talent. The same argument extended to Kayla McBride, whose reputation as one of basketball's purest shooters has been established over many years. Critics questioned why the league appeared to rely on informal communication through agents instead of making these players feel like honored guests at one of its signature events. That frustration became even more pronounced because the WNBA has never had more momentum to build upon. Every unnecessary controversy chips away at that objective, replacing excitement with distraction.
But right here you have Caitlin Clark speaking of Barack Obama, and it's kind of funny. You're going to see Gabby turn around like, oh, I'm trying to get a conversation in too. Let me get a conversation. Now, I don't know what they were talking about, but this was a lengthy conversation. As you can see, people are waiting around to talk to him. I think it was in his center or something like that. I don't forgot what they said it was in, but I do know Barack Obama is from Chi-Town, so it only makes sense that he's there, you know.
The attention surrounding Clark reached another interesting moment when she was seen interacting with former President Barack Obama during All-Star festivities in Chicago. Images of the conversation quickly circulated online, drawing widespread interest that extended well beyond traditional basketball audiences. It was one of those organic moments that every sports league dreams of because it naturally expanded the event's visibility without requiring expensive advertising campaigns. The photographs showcased one of basketball's brightest stars, sharing a conversation with one of America's most recognizable political figures in his hometown, creating positive headlines that traveled far beyond the sports pages. Ironically, those uplifting moments often seemed overshadowed by the ongoing debate surrounding league leadership. Instead of spending days celebrating the remarkable collection of talent gathered for All-Star Weekend, much of the media attention remained focused on reports concerning Kathy Engelbert's future. That was perhaps the most damaging aspect of the situation. The basketball itself repeatedly had to compete with discussions about governance, public relations, and administrative decisions. Many supporters believe the WNBA should have followed that same blueprint with Clark. They argue that promoting one superstar does not diminish everyone else. Instead, increased visibility creates larger television contracts, greater sponsorship opportunities, higher salaries, and more exposure for every player throughout the league.
What an incredible talent she is. 2 Final Fours, leading scorer, history of college basketball. So I look forward to watching her ongoing development in the league. I think ultimately this is very healthy for women's basketball in the WNBA. It's generating tremendous additional interest. In fairness to the other players and in fairness to Commissioner Engelbert, this didn't just start this year. Certainly we're seeing an acceleration.
In other words, the success of one transcendent figure can become the rising tide that lifts every boat. Instead, critics argue that too much energy has been spent managing narratives rather than embracing them. Every time controversy involving Clark emerged, whether it concerned physical play, officiating, or media coverage, the league often appeared reluctant to establish a firm and consistent position. That hesitation created an information vacuum, and in modern sports, vacuums never remain empty for long. Social media fills them almost immediately with speculation, rumors, and increasingly polarized opinions. The officiating issue became particularly symbolic because it represented more than isolated referee mistakes. It reflected a broader concern about accountability. Fans can accept occasional human error because every official misses calls. According to reports that generated enormous attention, Adam Silver encouraged stronger disciplinary action after the altercation involving Clark. Whether viewed as informal advice or direct intervention, the symbolism proved impossible to ignore. The commissioner of the NBA appeared willing to recognize the seriousness of protecting one of women's basketball's biggest attractions, while many fans believed the WNBA itself had hesitated. Some reportedly described her as difficult to connect with, while others pointed to challenges involving transparency, accessibility, and relationship building. Individually, those criticisms might not have seemed overwhelming. Collectively, they painted the picture of a commissioner whose support inside the league had begun to erode. Perhaps the strongest indication of that shift came from crisis management experts who observed the league from outside its daily operations.
It's not they spend
Because they're spending money. They're spending a lot of money that they don't have.
What Kanye West say? I got a problem with spending money
because they came up with all these numbers for attendance and how everything's increased. And at 33% of the
Fans no longer measure success solely by whether the league continues operating. They expect world-class marketing, consistent officiating, transparent communication, decisive leadership, and the ability to capitalize on every opportunity presented by the remarkable talent now filling the league. For many insiders, this moment has been building for far longer than recent headlines suggest. Every missed marketing opportunity, every prolonged officiating controversy, every disciplinary debate, and every perception that the league failed to fully embrace the unprecedented attention generated by Caitlin Clark gradually added another layer to the growing dissatisfaction. None of those issues alone would likely have threatened the commissioner's future. Together, however, they created the impression that the WNBA had reached the limits of what its current leadership could deliver, and many stakeholders now appear convinced that a new direction will be necessary if the league hopes to transform this historic wave of popularity into sustained long-term success.